Welcome in to the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe, presented by BetOnline. I'm Ross Geiger, the former NBA video coordinator, having spent time with the Bucks, Suns, and Knicks, and I'm joined alongside Bruce Bernstein, our four-time Emmy Award winner, who spent more than 3 decades at ESPN, producing NBA shows, SportsCenter, and soaking up knowledge from the best scoop analysts in the business. Also joining us is the 2-time Emmy Award winner, Michael World B. Freer, who is a senior writer at Stat Factor, specializing in writing advanced statistical NBA reports for various announcers across the league. This is episode number 133, the Toumani Camara episode, as the second year forward is a league pass darling for NBA sickos like me who enjoy watching the Portland Trailblazers. For those that don't know yet, Camara is a Swiss Army knife off the ball. He's constantly moving, setting screens, cutting to the basket. I mean, you name it, he's doing it. And also getting after it defensively. He's been fun to watch develop. Before we get things rolling here tonight, just a quick reminder, BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. BetOnline, from the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen, with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC. Head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use our promo code BLEAV, that is BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. And tonight, fellas, let's start out with a hot team in the East, and that is the Atlanta Hawks. They had an impressive last week going 3-1, and 2 of those 3 wins came against the Cleveland Cavaliers, 1 home, 1 away. Another road win in Charlotte, and their only loss came to start out the week last Monday at home against the Mavericks. So what are we thinking, Bruce? Have they turned a corner?
Well, they stumbled into that Wednesday game last week at Cleveland with a 3-game losing streak, and they had lost the 3 games by a total of 47 points. So on Wednesday, DeAndre Hunter, went nuclear. They beat Cleveland by 11, and then the very next night they played again and just blitzed Cleveland in the third quarter. And just like that, they served notice. Hey, here we are. We're legit. As you mentioned, they eked out a win against Charlotte. They're now 10-11, and they should be reaching the 500 mark on Monday night against New Orleans, but they've got their hands full with the woeful Pelicans. It's a 2-point game. They're trailing in the third quarter at home. We'll see if they can kind of bounce in the fourth and put those guys away. But it really kind of feels like Quin Snyder, who's seems like he's been there forever, but it's really just his second full season as coach. 2 seasons ago, he was 10-11 after replacing Nate McMillan and Joe Prunty, who was 2-0 in between those 2 coaches. And Snyder had 3 50-win seasons when he coached Utah. And those were between 2017 and 21. So he seems on his way to getting his program established there. And maybe, that bodes well for some longer-term success in Atlanta. And I really love his color-coordinated glasses. They really make a fashion statement.
They certainly do. That always catches my eye when I'm watching Hawks games. World B, what have you seen from the Hawks this year?
Well, they're getting production from, Bruce mentioned DeAndre Hunter. He's shooting a career high over 40% from 3. He's also getting to the line a lot. That's huge for him and for anybody. They have a shot here. Now, they're entering Monday. 7 of their next 9 are at home. So they have a chance to really, you say, are they back? Are they turn the corner? Get back to us in 9 games and let's see how they do, because they have a really good opportunity. I'm not crazy. I'm going to take a wait and see approach with them. Their bench still is not the best of all time here. It's kind of weak. They're getting outscored by, I think, about 4 points per 100 possessions collectively, which is really bottom 5 in the NBA. When Jalen Johnson's off the court, they're really getting beat up. You're getting outscored by like 14 points per 100 possessions. So they really need to fix that before I can really get behind. But DeAndre Hunter producing, Trae Young is starting to get his shot together, but it's a slow thing. He had nowhere to go but up after he struggled so badly just shooting wise. So they have a shot. I'll give them that. They have a shot.
Yeah, and Jalen Johnson, I'm glad you mentioned him, World, because that has been the big difference maker for this team this year. You look at this guy's number, he is a borderline all-star this year, if you ask me. He's playing 36 and a half minutes a night, averaging just about 20 points a game, shooting 50% from the floor. He's a guy that's averaging almost 10 rebounds at 9.9 and over 5 assists. He kind of does it all for this group. Kind of reminds me a lot of kind of just the X factor that Evan Mobley can be for the Cleveland Cavaliers. He causes a lot of problem with his height. I mean, this is a guy that's 6'8" and long, and he can play the small forward position, even be versatile, play the power forward. So keep an eye on him for sure. Bruce?
I've never been a big fan of Trae Young. I just never really felt like he was impacting winning, but he is leading the league in assists this year. And as you mentioned, as World B mentioned, his shot hasn't exactly been falling, but I think that's a sign of him maturing perhaps as a point guard, that he knows his shot's not falling. So he's setting other guys up and the team's doing well. So give a little credit here to Trae Young.
Yeah, and I know a couple episodes ago I brought up Dyson Daniels and his steals. He is back at it once again here tonight. He's got 4 so far late in the third quarter. Game prior to that, he had 2. He's had 5 games straight with multi-steal games. So keep an eye out for him as well. He has been a huge factor for this team defensively, something that they need with a point guard like Trae Young, who can obviously dish the ball offensively, but it's kind of a liability on the defensive end of the floor. Now, next up, we're going to talk about the team the Hawks beat twice just last week. That's the Cleveland Cavaliers. They came away with a huge statement win on Sunday, and it was a nice bounce-back game at home in a rematch with the reigning NBA champ Boston Celtics. They took care of Bruce's squad, 115-111. Bruce, what's your big takeaway from the rematch?
The Cavaliers had a lot on the line on Sunday when they hosted the C's. Coming off those 2 losses to Atlanta, a loss to Boston would have meant the C's passed them for the best overall record in the NBA. So was their 115-111 win a statement win? Yes, it was. And no, it was not. Yes, because Donovan Mitchell went nuclear in the fourth quarter, scoring 20 points, and the Cavs erased a 12-point deficit and won it by 4 to hang on to the top record. No, because the Cavs had to have this game because Boston was playing without Jaylen Brown and Derek White, who would have been dogging Spider in that fourth quarter. Cleveland, though, by winning, they get to feel good about themselves, but Boston knows who they are, and this loss means less to them than it would have meant to Cleveland.
Wilby, do you agree with that, or do you think this is a big win for Cleveland as far as kind of their standing in the Eastern Conference at the top?
I mean, it's a good win for them in that they stopped the bleeding, as it were, with the
2 straight losses.
The great thing about professional sports in general, but they tend to put we the fans get too hyped up over things. They lose back-to-back games to the Hawks, and the sky is falling in Cleveland, and they come back. Those guys shrug it off. That's when you're a pro. You shrug these things off. You move on to the next game. The Cleveland, the Hawks thing was kind of, that was an aberration, really, if you be honest with you. The first game against the Hawks, they had the worst defensive efficiency all season. So then the next game, they follow up by having the worst offensive efficiency game of the season for Cleveland. So it's just a weird situation for them. I don't put a whole lot. They're big wins, but you can't put too much stock into it in November or early December, whatever the case may be. One thing I will say is Bruce was talking about Donovan Mitchell. He's certainly going to be, as the season goes on, I think a serious MVP candidate. When you think about this, we put so much value on what Joker does over in Denver, how he is, and I talk about here all the time, how he does when he's on the court and when he's off the court, how Denver offense is so there's such a big contrast. Well, Donovan Mitchell, the Cavaliers are 13-0 when Donovan Mitchell's effective field goal percentage is 50% or better, and they're 4-3 when it isn't. And that continues. That's going to just resonate with people to show just how valuable he is to their success, despite the fact that they have a really good team. We talked about all those guys, Mobley, Allen, Darius Garland. They have a lot of talent, and they're loaded on the bench. But Donovan Mitchell is more and more going to be the X factor on this team if things like this keep up.
Yeah, no question. And Bruce, real quickly here on your Celtics, of course, you did mention Jaylen Brown and Derek White being out for this big-time matchup on Sunday. Jrue Holiday, though, he played in this game. He's kind of been in a rut lately. Do you have any concerns with him? I mean, he is 34. He hasn't shot the ball particularly well this year. I know the Celtics have plenty of scoring, but he's just not been very efficient out there. So any concerns here early with him, or nothing to worry about? He'll find his groove.
It's funny. He just seemed like he didn't have his usual Jrue Holiday energy in the game on Sunday night. He seemed like he was just a half step slow in transition. Look, Cleveland's guards, Mitchell and Garland, those guys can run. All right.
Yeah.
And without Derek White, helping out, at this point, I think Jrue Holiday's probably, a very effective team defender. He knows all the little tricks, but Derek White is more of a lockdown guy. So Jrue had no answers for Donovan Mitchell late in the game. And when they need somebody else to guard a hot guard, a lot of times that would be Jaylen Brown, as he played against Luka in the finals last year and did really well against him on defense. So, yeah, look, as far as I'm concerned, Jrue Holiday, just give him his proper rest. He's sitting out the Monday night game against Miami. That's probably good for him. They're winning that game easily. So mild concerns. He's 34 years old, but I also feel like Drew's game is not predicated on athleticism. It's more of a cerebral kind of a game. And I think, he knows himself well enough. I think he'll be fine in the long run.
Yep. And I need a third-party opinion here before we move on to our next topic, and that is, if there was a 7-game series right now, Cavs, Celtics, who are you taking and how many games?
I'm taking Boston until further notice, probably in about 6 games or whatever. But I will say this, there is a formula. It's really predicated on the Celtics, but there's a formula for them to be beaten. They take more of their threes than any team in the league. Higher percentage of their shots coming from 3. We see all the time. But if those threes aren't falling, they become a very beatable team. They're 10-1 when the 3-point percentage for them is above 37%. And when it's under 37%, they're 6-3. Now, they're such a good shooting team. You're not going to have that many nights when they're all cold. But it doesn't have to be that way. Even games where they don't shoot really well and they win, they've been some close games in there. So there is a formula. You can look at the box score. It's not too hard to figure out. How did the Celtics shoot? Did they make a lot of their threes? They're going to win most nights. If they don't make them, you got a shot. But until further notice, yeah, it's Boston right now in any series.
Yeah, fair enough. And Bruce, that's enough from me picking on your Celtics here. Let's go ahead and look at a bright side, as Kristaps Porzingis is back, and he sure seems like he is that guy that kind of completes this team, doesn't he?
They were 14-3 while he was on the injured list. Then he returned last Monday against the Clippers, and in his 3 games, he scored 16, 21, and 21 with a total of 22 rebounds. His physical presence at the rim is all important on defense because, you just can't teach 7-3 when your hands are up in the air. He deters a lot of easy shots. He played 32 minutes on Sunday in Cleveland, and based on that, it seems like he's ready to resume his full-time starter's workload, after only a few games. Now, after Monday night against Miami, which Boston is going to win that game easily, Boston will play its next 4 games at home, including Friday against the Bucks on ESPN. We'll really get a chance to see what he can do against, the Milwaukee Bigs. But, if the Celtics are fully healthy and Al Horford can dial back his minutes, which are currently around 28 a game, Boston looks like the best team in the league. And I want to give some big ups to Neemias Queta, whose early season work really boosted the Celtics in KP's absence and should be, able to help keep Horford fresh down the stretch, because now he can take some of his minutes too. So they're in good shape. And Porzingis, as you said, does complete that team.
Hey, speaking about Porzingis here, we talked about his defensive presence and it's all on the money there. He adds a potential element they do not have in the post. In his first game back, he posted up just 1 time, I think. And then against the Bulls, the next game, they posted him up 5 times. And then against Cleveland the other night, 9 times. So they're progressing. They're giving him a little more shots in the paint. And if he can, get that part of his game back, geez, what are the Celtics going to have offensively? We know what they can do around the perimeter. Now you got somebody in the middle who can post up, and with his skill set, they're really in danger of dominating the game again offensively, like we saw last season when they had the most efficient season offensively in NBA history.
Yep. And one last note here on Kristaps Porzingis for all my sportsbook friends out there. He is one of the best values right now as far as first baskets. If you like first basket, guys, best value out there right now, in my opinion, is Kristaps Porzingis, because as Bruce said, he's 7'3". He's probably going to win the tip. And it seems like Joe Mazzulla is certainly calling a lot of first basket plays for him. So he's getting the first look for the Celtics. So keep an eye on that moving forward. Now, Sunday was a big night around the association, as not only do we have the top teams out east playing, but shifting out west, we also have the top two teams in the Western Conference standings going head-to-head, and that was with the Houston Rockets hosting the Oklahoma City Thunder. This one between two young gun teams did not disappoint. Houston walked away victorious on their home floor, 119-116, but boy, was this quite a battle till the very end, Bruce.
Let's begin with this. The Rockets are a gritty, in all caps, gritty bunch. They held OKC to 20 points in the final quarter on Sunday and won the game by 3. Fred VanVleet scored 38, including 13 of 14 from the free throw line, which is a head scratcher right there, how Fred VanVleet goes to the line for 14 free throw attempts. However, the signature gritty sequence for Houston came in the final 51 seconds of a tied game. Dillon Brooks and SGA battled for a loose ball, and neither one of them would let the ball go. There were some shenanigans after, the jump ball was called. They were kind of woofing at each other. And then Houston controlled the jump ball, and they had a very disorganized possession. Again, it's a tie game, under 50 seconds left. Alpi Şengün kind of slipped and fell, had the ball in the paint. From his butt, he passed the ball to Dillon Brooks for like a mid-range jumper, gave him a 2-point lead. That was his 9th assist, put them ahead for good. That was a kind of a play where a gritty team finds a way to make something out of nothing there, and Houston did just that. And Alpi Şengün, great court presence and awareness to make a really great play.
Yeah, and Worldby, I wanted to ask you about Şengün because you're the numbers guy, and he's putting up a lot of big numbers for this team. I mean, he seemed to be kind of one of the standout players in this one. As Bruce mentioned, 14 rebounds to go along with 9 assists, 20 points. They seem to not really have much answers for him now. Granted, Chet Holmgren's out for the Thunder, but moving forward with Şengün, does a team like the Thunder have an answer to kind of keep him under control? Because as of last night and the parts that I watched, they didn't have many answers.
No, I agree, and I think it's tough. Hartenstein is a guy battles in the middle. I mean, without Hartenstein and with Holmgren hurting, they were starting Jalen Williams at center for crying out loud for a number of games. He saw a lot of it. Now they weren't bad with him in the middle there, but a long-term thing, you're not going to get much out of that. But no, rebounding's been their issue since for years now with OKC. No matter how well how successful they've been offensively and defensively, it's the rebounding that just really bothers me. And even Hartenstein coming back hasn't cured that yet. He's had some numbers, but as a team, they're just not getting the rebounds the way Pat Riley said, rebounds equals rings, or no rebounds, no rings. That was the line he used. And it's really becoming true in OKC's case. It's the real deficiency in their game right now.
Ime Udoka has really put his stamp on this Houston Rockets team. His teams always, guard the shit out of you. I mean, they're very aggressive defensively, and their defense is one of the best in the NBA. Opponents shoot under 43% against them, number 2 behind only OKC, and they're tied for second in guarding the three-point line, trailing only Golden State. Opponents only making just under 34%. Defense travels, and this team is 6-3 on the road, and that definitely plays into the whole grit factor for them. I predicted they would go over they're 43.5 over-under going into the season. I still have my doubts about them reaching 50 because how tough that conference is, but high 40s is a virtual lock for this team, which will definitely be a top 6 team, in my opinion.
And I wouldn't be, I'd be remiss if I didn't give us our weekly Jalen Green line here.
Oh, boy.
I agree with Bruce on the Rockets. I think they're a really impressive team. Their defense is lights out, tough as nails. But if they're going to get anywhere in the Western Conference or in general, your best player, your leading scorer, who is Jalen Green, cannot be the worst shooter in the league, which is what he is. He is the worst shooter in the league. I'm not just criticizing him. Out of 43 players that have taken at least 275 shots, nobody has a worse or a lower effective field goal percentage than Jalen Green, 46.9%. That can't happen. I know he put up 41 the other night. That's great. He's got to shoot better than this if they're going to get anywhere. How can you have the ball in his hands down the stretch if you can't shoot? I mean, it's just as simple as that. So I think the Rockets are having a great season. They're on a great run, 12-3 since they started 3-3. But until Jalen Green becomes a serious shooter or an average shooter, I don't think it's serious, average shooter, I just don't see him going anywhere playoff-wise.
I mean, I would like to defend my guy, Jalen Green, because I am a huge fan of his, but you're right on par with that take there. I think as far as average shooting is concerned, though, we look at this one on Sunday against Oklahoma City. The fact that they got a great game out of Fred VanVleet, that guy can even be an average shooter because he's had his fair share of struggles since coming over from Toronto to Houston. If he's able to get back to what we knew him as a Raptors guard with this team, they could be really scary as well. So I think at the very least with this Rockets team moving forward, they've got to at least get an efficient shooting night from either Jalen Green or Fred VanVleet, and they'll probably be in good shape because of the defense that they play, as you alluded to there, Bruce.
And by the way, as you mentioned, they have it. You look at their roster, that's a really potentially stacked roster. They got a lot of quality players, like young and old. The mixture is really good. So they really have a shot at doing damage. I think they have a shot at doing damage in the Western Conference. I think they can get to 50 wins if some of these other things, if they shoot the ball a little bit better. Their defense is so freaking good that they can win these games. They can separate themselves in the Western Conference because, hey, teams like the Lakers, teams like the Nuggets aren't exactly asserting themselves, in that conference. And we talk about how deep it is. The Clippers bring a good defense, but their offense is just lousy. So the Rockets have a real shot, I think, to get to a 50 wins in that conference, which is more than I thought when we, before the season started.
Yeah, they have definitely taken us by surprise here early on this season. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and we come back. We're going to talk about the NBA Cup right after this. And we're back here on 48 Minutes, and let's go ahead and provide an NBA Cup update. And I'll start with this, fellas. The Lakers finished up group play with a 2-2 record, which means, drumroll please, we will have we will have a new NBA Cup winner this season, as the Lakers won't be moving on to the NBA Cup quarterfinals. So far, the Atlanta Hawks have clinched the East Group C winner. And in the West, both the Houston Rockets and Golden State Warriors have clinched their respective groups. So that leaves us with the teams still in contention. So let's go ahead and take a deeper dive into those. We're going to start out East with Group A. And I would just like to know, who do you like coming out of each group? So in Group A, we've got the Orlando Magic and New York Knicks. Bruce, I'll start with you.
Well, New York needs to beat Orlando on Tuesday to clinch the group with a 4-0 record. The game is at MSG. And since the Knicks haven't had a banner to hang in more than half a century, the crowd's going to be on fire for this game. But there's no path to the wild card if New York loses. So we'll see if they can handle the moment and make the Magic disappear. Nice. Orlando has a little bit more of a cushion due to point differential, so they could lose the game and still grab the wild card unless they lose by 38 points.
All right. And I started with Bruce because I wanted to give you more time to ponder this big time question for you, because I know it's, pulling at your heart here. Do you got the Magic or the Knicks coming out of Group A?
I got Orlando. I think Orlando's going to win this game. It's really nothing against either team, other than I think the Knicks have been a little inconsistent of late. They fouled up really solid, impressive performances with just really dreadful ones like we saw last week against the Jazz. So it just hasn't, the consistency hasn't been there. They looked really incredible against the Pelicans on Sunday, but then you realize they're playing the Pelicans without their two leading scorers. So how much was it worth? The Magic are just on fire these days. I mean, 12 out of 13 without Banchero there. They're getting guys. They're getting, Banchero's not there, but they're getting guys healthy. Wendell Carter Jr. is getting healthy. Franz Wagner is looking like he could be a potential all-star here. And just like the Rockets, this is the best defense in the league since they went on this run. I will say this, though. They have played an unbelievably easy schedule. To put it in college football, world, the comparison, think Indiana football this season. How they're 10-1, but they played nobody. This is Orlando Magic. This is their 12 wins. They beat the Lakers and they beat the Suns, so they get credit for that. But the 10 wins, Washington, Pelicans, 76ers, the Hornets twice, the Bulls, the Pistons, the Pacers, the Nets twice. I mean, you couldn't ask. If you gave them, say, all right, here's 10 teams, 10 games you can have, which ones would you have? These are the ones they would pick.
Yeah.
They would be the opponents. So I'm all for it. I'm happy they're playing so well. They looked impressive. Their defense is outstanding. But let's see what they do Tuesday against the Knicks. And I think they can come back and get a good win there. But if they don't, then now we're going to start questioning, the legitimacy of this team.
Since I've been bashing him all season, I just want to give a little credit to Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who has reemerged as an actual NBA performer the last few games. So way to go, KCP. Good to see you earning some of that money.
Here's a note on him, Casey. First 18 games, 17 threes. Last 3 games, 14 threes. You're absolutely right. He's finally hitting the shots, and that just adds to the quality of on the roster that they have, that they can, if they get production out of him, they got a real. I'll say this is my hot take of the day. If they get everybody healthy, Banchero's back, everybody's back and healthy and playing the way they're playing right now, the Orlando Magic can be the biggest challenger to the Boston Celtics in the East. I firmly believe that. They're that loaded and they play that good when they're all together.
Clip it. We need that hot take there. We got to clip that one. I got to say this. I got the New York Knicks real quickly here coming out of Group A. I think what I've been seeing from the Knicks lately, yes, it's been inconsistent basketball, but in the times that they've been really good, it's when their defense is leading into offense. And I think we're seeing more and more of that from this team on the defensive side of the ball. We looked at Karl Anthony Towns on Sunday. Yes, they were playing the Pelicans. He had 17 rebounds at halftime. I mean, if you put together one-and-done stops defensively, getting steals, I just see that matchup on Tuesday against the Magic. Franz Wagner could be in the torture chamber with OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges defending him on that assignment. So
the Pelicans were 1 for 18 to start the game, so it's not like there weren't chances for Cat to get rebounds. So 1 for 18 to start the game. He had plenty of chances to get the rebounds.
He definitely did, but I mean, I still got to give him some credit for pulling down 17 of them. I mean, they could have got some offensive boards with how many clanks they were throwing out there.
I'm a big fan. I told you last week or the week before, there's no player that's switched teams that's been more impressive with his new team than Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah. And moving on here to Group B, we've got the Milwaukee Bucks and the Detroit Pistons. Bruce, who do you got coming out of Group B?
Well, Tuesday's game is in Detroit, where the Pistons are 4-6 so far, which maybe doesn't sound all that great, but it's actually better than it sounds because they won only 7 home games the entire season last year. So they're on pace to more than double that total this year. The Bucks, well, they're just 2-6 on the road, and their recent 6-game win streak included 5 wins at home, with the lone road win at Miami in a game that Giannis missed last Tuesday. The Bucks should find a way to win on the road and clinch the group. If it's a 5-point margin of defeat for the Pistons or less, Detroit is likely going to get the wild card, provided Orlando beats the Knicks.
All right, World B.
It's so tempting to take the Pistons, but no, I think it'll be the Bucks. This is, 2 weeks ago, this was a perfect setup for the Bucks to flop because that's the way they've been playing. The Pistons are better. Defensively, they're drastically improved from last season, which they're still average this season defensively, but that's how bad they were previous season. The Bucks are really starting to roll here. 5 straight games with an offensive efficiency of 120 or better. That's Bucks as we knew them. Giannis is playing like an MVP guy once again. He's 38 points a game in his last 4 games, and he's playing less than 35 minutes in those games. So he's getting the most out of it. They're really unbelievable team in this regard. They have the best transition guy and the best guy in the paint scoring wise in Giannis, and yet they're one of the worst teams in transition, and they're one of the worst teams scoring in the paint. It's unbelievable. When he sat the other night against Miami, they got outscored by almost 30 points in the paint. So it's just incredible how good Giannis is and how bad everybody else is in these sense when he's not on the court. But yeah, I'll take the Bucks the way they're playing right now, finally on a roll.
Yeah, definitely rolling here as of late. And you brought up KCP shooting the ball real well for a stretch here. Let's talk about a guy that's shot the ball extremely well all season long, actually leading the league in three-point field goal percentage, and that's Taurean Prince. He is at 54% on the season, a big-time acquisition for them. He has been stroking it from downtown for this group. But one quick note here on the Pistons. When Cade Cunningham plays, this team is a problem. He has been playing exceptional basketball for this team this year, averaging 36 minutes a game, 23 points, 44% from the field, 37 from downtown, 7 rebounds, 9 assists. He's kind of been a triple-double threat on a nightly basis. So if they get solid contributions from him, if the Bucks don't play good defense on Cade Cunningham, he really opens up the floor for guys like Malik Beasley and other shooters out there on the floor for the Pistons. So keep an eye on Detroit shooting the basketball tomorrow against the Bucks defense that does most of the time struggle in stretches throughout games, and a lead could get away from Milwaukee, and Detroit could steal this one. But I think Giannis knows what's on the line on this one, and he wants to head to the quarterfinals.
You're absolutely right about the Pistons without Cunningham. I mean, when he's not on the court, that offense is really stagnant. I mean, it's not just an average. It's a bad offense without him. He really makes them go, and he absolutely is key for them more than any player on that team as far as offense. Everything works better when he's on the court.
Yep. And now moving on to Group C, Bruce, we've got the Boston Celtics that are still alive for the wild card. So what's your assessment on the Celtics' chances to move forward to the quarterfinals?
Well, Boston is rooting for Orlando against the Knicks on Tuesday night because no other wild card scenario is possible for the Celtics without a New York loss, okay? For Boston to get the wild card, in addition to the Magic beating the Knicks, either the Bucks or Pistons have to beat each other by like 6 or 7 points. Then Boston could advance if the Knicks beat the Magic. I should say Boston could advance if the Knicks beat the Magic in a bloodbath by 38 or more points, but that ain't happening.
No.
So I would say, Boston needs Orlando to win, and then either Milwaukee or Detroit has to win their game by like, say, 7 points. It's 6 for one team, 7 or the other. But if it's a 7-point win either way and Orlando wins, Boston gets the wild card. So I would say 40-60 that Boston gets the wild card.
All right, fair enough. And we're moving out west here, World B. Let's start out with Group A. We've got the Portland Trailblazers of all teams, believe it or not, still in the running, and the Los Angeles Clippers. They're still both alive for a wild card position. How are you feeling about those two teams and how they stack up?
I'm more comfortable saying the Clippers because their defense is just really really solid. Portland, their offense is really a problem. They only had their bigs there. Robert Williams, and
Klingon, Ayton.
Yeah, and those 3 guys. Ayton just came back, 3 games back. He's been really solid. But they've only had those guys together on the court or available for just 2 games this season. That's really tough for them to expect much out of them. So it's Portland. It's kind of tough. The Clippers have been one of the big surprises in the NBA this season. We talked about it before. If they were going to do anything, we all thought they were going to flop. I certainly did. But the only way they wouldn't go, flop was if they really stepped up their defense. And boy, if they stepped up their defense, top 5 in the league. Ty Lue's looking like an early Coach of the Year winner in this season. So yeah, I'm comfortable. They're doing all this with James Harden being. I joked about Jalen Green being the worst shooter in the league. He's just, James Harden is just ahead of him. He's having a horrendous shooting season, and the Clippers are still winning.
Yeah. Now, Bruce, we got the big matchup, Blazers-Clippers Tuesday night. We just said Ayton's back. They've got Klingon. They've got Time Lord. Lots of options to throw at Vika Zubac, and then James Harden, the other guy I wanted to get to. The guy I dedicated this episode to, Toumani Camara. Is he up for the task to kind of make it a tough night for James Harden? I think they have some tools that could make it an interesting set of events. But what's your thoughts here on how this Tuesday night matchup may fare?
Well, I'm kind of with World B in that it probably favors the Clippers. The Blazers could grab the wild card if they blow out the Clippers by like 1,000,000 points, but they need all kinds of help from other teams, and it would really kind of take a near miracle for all of those scenarios to work out for the Blazers. So I'm not feeling the Blazers. I just don't think they have enough firepower to blow out a good defensive team like the Clippers. But I will say this, the Rockets have sort of dominated this group, but they really want to crush Sacramento on Tuesday night because they want to improve their seeding chances and end up in a higher seeding position, and they need a win by a lot of points against Sac. It still may not be enough, but again, it would just be another feather in Houston's cap to really boost their seed and show, yet again, another sort of like signpost on their ascension this year.
Yeah. One thing on Portland, real quick. I can't believe this is like a record for us talking about Portland.
Oh, I'm loving it.
Yeah, I know you are. Their offense is really all or nothing. You'll be able, if you watch a game, you'll be able to tell pretty quickly what kind of game it's going to be. The difference between their offensive efficiency and wins and losses is like 14 points per 100 possessions. So it's like a really huge gap. When their offense is going good, they're in games and they usually win. When they lose, their offense goes right in the tank, and they're playing one of the best defensive teams. So you'll be able to, if you're watching that game, you'll be able to see real quick what kind of game it's going to be based on how Portland plays offensively.
Well, I'll definitely be locked into that one with my fingers crossed here, hoping for a miracle because it's not over yet. The Portland Trailblazers can do it and move on to the quarterfinals. Now, heading out to Group B here, we've got the San Antonio Spurs, Phoenix Suns, and Oklahoma City Thunder. Bruce, who do you like out of these 3 teams?
This is the group to watch on Tuesday. 3 teams are alive. OKC advances if they beat Utah at home. The only question is whether it's as the winner of the group or as a wild card winner. The Spurs and Suns are battling on Tuesday to advance, and OKC needs Phoenix to win or the Spurs will clinch the group. If Spurs win, they clinch the group, and they would advance. If the Spurs lose, they're done. No wild card scenario for the Spurs. If Phoenix does win, they could even clinch the wild card if Dallas loses to Memphis by a bunch and Portland doesn't go nuclear on offense against the Clippers. So that group is the one with the most potential movement among teams that could make it or could go home.
Very interesting. World B, what's your thoughts?
It's great. I'm almost getting ready to jump on the Spurs bandwagon. I think they just got above 500 for the first time with Wemby since last season in the 3rd or 4th game. Remember, they started like 2-2 and then lost 18 in a row. It was something stupid like that, and they've never been close to 500 since. And now they got there to get above it. I thought that was a big point, bigger deal than it seemed. They had a really good win over the Kings on Sunday, which is, they have nice second half. They're a really good second half team. And I want to see that continue. And I like watching Wemby and all those guys. I think Wemby and Chris Paul together have been outstanding. And I think there's just more coming for them. It's hard to go against the Thunder, but I'm gonna root for the Spurs on this one.
All right. I've got the Oklahoma City Thunder because I think at the end of the day, if it's a tight game, Utah has a chance to take the lead. They've got a layup. Will Hardy just might call a timeout to stay in the flag sweepstakes because that's what we saw the other night there against the Los Angeles Lakers. But I think the Thunder will come away with it. They're playing a great brand of basketball right now. They're flying up and down the court. And I think this is a step they want to take in the right direction as far as getting some more exposure at a bigger stage that they haven't really been to yet. So for this group to get to Las Vegas, play in the Final Four, hopefully, I think would be a real good opportunity for them to kind of grow as a group. So I've got the Thunder there. Now, Group C, Bruce, you mentioned the Dallas Mavericks before, but we got the Mavericks, the Denver Nuggets, and the Memphis Grizzlies, all wild card potential for all three of these teams. But does anyone really stand a chance?
Well, look, if Memphis beats Dallas and Denver beats Golden State, the Nuggets and Grizzlies could theoretically advance, but there are many scenarios that would have to go their way. Dallas looks pretty good to also advance if they beat Memphis at home and maintain their considerable point differential lead over the other 2-1 teams in the three Western groups. Golden State is in the clear. They wrapped up this group last week, but they'd really like to run up the score against Denver on Tuesday to improve their seeding for the next round. So I guess Golden State obviously is in. I like Dallas to kind of, hang on and grab that wild card. Memphis would be a nice story, but too many other things have to happen to help them, I think.
Yeah, lots of ifs with those other teams there. Will be, what's your assessment?
It's a weird thing because the Mavericks have really they're on a roll here. If it wasn't for Orlando, we'd be talking about how great the Mavericks have been lately. They've been really impressive. Their defense is one of the best defenses in the league, top 10, and top 10 in efficiency, top 5 in defending shooters. But when they go up against good offenses, they really struggle defensively. They played twice against the Nuggets, who are top 10 offensively, and they got, really the doors blown off defensively against them. They beat the Knicks, who are the number 1 offense in the league right now. But Memphis, people don't realize they're number 5 in offensive efficiency. This team has really been a surprise, given just their injury situation. They're getting guys back and everything. I understand that, but they're a really solid team offensively, and that poses a problem for the Mavericks, even though they have a good defense. That being said, I think Luka being back and starting to shoot the ball a little bit better, that's a big deal because he was having a horrendous season shooting the ball. He's starting to shoot it a little bit better. I think Dallas is playing – they're playing well right now, and I think it's going to continue.
Yeah, I got Dallas taking Group C, getting this wild card position. I think they're in a very good spot to do so, as Bruce very well done laid out for us there on his take there for the group. Now, moving on here to our final thoughts. Bruce, I'll let you lead us off.
We talked about Memphis a little bit in that last bit of discussion. Every Batman needs a Robin for a team to be successful. Memphis is 14-7, third place in the West. Much of the team's improvement concerns the return of Ja Morant, also known as the Batman of the Grizz. But while Morant has played well, he's missed 11 of the team's 21 games, okay? On the other hand, the Robin of the Grizz, Jaren Jackson Jr., may have become the real Batman in Memphis. Ooh. Triple J has played in 19 of 21 games. He's been in double figures all 19 games. 13 of those games, he's had 20 or more points. He's a premier rim defender with nearly 2 blocks a game. The seventh best in the NBA. His rebounding could be a little bit better. He's averaging just a shade under 6, but he makes his free throws. He's become a passable three-point shooter, 34%, not bad for a guy his size. And he scores 22.4 points a game on just over 15 field goal attempts, so very efficient. At the age of 25, his best ball is definitely still in front of him, and although he's only turned 25 in September. He's already in his 7th NBA season. He was Defensive Player of the Year 2 seasons ago. He should be a shoo-in for the All-Star game this year. The Grizz don't get a lot of national exposure, so you'll need League Pass if you really want to check out Triple J, who may soon surpass Morant as the Batman of the Grizzlies. Well done, Triple J.
And well done to you, Bruce. That was nicely laid out there. Love that. World B.
Yeah, we touched on it. I touched on it at the beginning of the show earlier about the Orlando Magic and how they have a big game on Tuesday against the Knicks here. And I kind of made my final thought. I made it a little early, but I'll bring it up again. This Magic team, 12-1 in the last 13 games. I pointed out how they haven't really defeated anybody outside of Phoenix and the Lakers. They played a really easy schedule. Let's just put it like that. But I'm going to reiterate that when they get everybody healthy, when they get Paolo Banchero back, they already have Wendell Carter Jr. back. When they get everybody at full strength, KCP starting to play like we thought he was going to when he came aboard. I'm going to say it again. This is a team, not the Knicks, not the Cavaliers. The way they're playing right now, if they continue their defense with that offensive talent, when they get everybody healthy, the Orlando Magic could absolutely be the biggest contender to the Celtics in the Eastern Conference.
They certainly could be. And for my final thought, World B, you teed it up nicely for me. I want to talk about another team you should watch out for kind of at the bottom of the Eastern Conference standings. That is the Toronto Raptors. They might be 6-15 on the season, but RJ Barrett's been on an absolute tear. He's averaging 23.7 points per game, shooting 35% from three to go along with 6 rebounds and 6 assists. And they've just recently gotten Scotty Barnes back here, and he has been flirting with triple doubles ever since he's returned. So if they can ever get Emmanuel quickly back into the mix, along with Jakob Poeltl, who is a very good anchor down low, grabbing boards and kicking it out to their shooters. Keep an eye on Toronto, because with how the Eastern Conference standings is shaking out, they have a chance to maybe be a team we're talking about months down the road as potentially having a chance at the play-in. I mean, maybe the 10th seed play-in, but this is a team that I said at the beginning of the year was going to be one of my League Pass watches. They've been a joy to watch thus far, so continue to keep an eye on them. And with that, that will do it for this edition of the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe, presented by BetOnline. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back with you next week to be sure you're up to date in 48 on all things around the association. Take care, everyone.